everyone. Today we're going to be reviewing and watching and reacting to Fontana's latest informational video about the air quality on Fontana. My name is Amparo Muñoz, the Miramontes, and I am a Fontana resident. I am also a biology major, graduated from Cal State LA. I've worked in manufacturing for the last 22 years. So I have a lot of experience. I've actually published papers and done research as an undergrad. So I have a very extensive scientific background as well as a manufacturing background. So we're going to take a little bit of our experience and as a resident, look at some of the wording that the city has used in their informational video. And with me today is Ana Gonzalez. Ana Gonzalez, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Amparo. So you mentioned my name, Ana Gonzalez. I am currently the Interim Executive Director at the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice, also known as CCAEJ. We are focusing on the city of Fontana due to their influx of warehousing and truck diesel pollution. And we are here, like she said, to react to this video that was released by the city of Fontana.
And one good thing that you should know about both of us is we are moms. So the most important thing to us is our children and our children's health. So we are going to react to this both as professionals, but also as members of the community and mothers. So let's get started.
Air quality has been an important topic in California since the 50s. Over the last 9 months, I've had to learn a lot about air quality, about commerce center development, about Fontana, where we are in the region, how we fit into the global supply chain. Air quality in Southern California, in our region specifically, has improved dramatically in the last 20 years.
So I would like to stop right there. He said a lot already. One of the things he said is he's just got to the city and he had a lot of learning to do in the last 9 months. So we did a little research on Phil Burham. And I'm taking some quotes from a paper from October 12, 2021 from the Inland Valley Daily Bulletin. And Phil Burham actually is heavily in developing. His entire career has been as a developer. So the city of Fontana, as we have started off by saying, is full of warehouses. And developers are often given free rein within Fontana to build warehouses within feet of schools. No consideration is really given to the traffic plan, and I'm sure all of you probably experience that at home, but you're probably thinking, okay, that makes sense. Why would you bring a developer? Well, you would bring a developer to put a rooster, or what do they call it, fox, in charge of the hen house, right? So that's kind of what this story is talking about. And there's some interesting things about here. The Burham family was involved in the colony development up Upland, turned into a huge legal case. There was charges of embezzlement and fraud, and so a lot of that just went poorly. If you know anything about Upland, the colonies never materialized to the lake. Nothing ever happened as the way it was designed to be. But everyone, the Burham family made out with buckets of cash, and the city had to clean up the messes. So this is our new, this is who's speaking on this. And we told you a little bit about our education. I'm going to read to you what this article says. It's in Fontana, former developer Phil Burham embraces role at City Hall. So again, I give you the date. And this actually says, the young Burham describes himself as a know-it-all who decided he was too smart for college and maybe outsmarted himself in the process. He ran a bar, ran a dry cleaner, ran a tuxedo and bridal company. So please take that with a grain of sand as you listen to the rest of this video. The advice is coming to you from someone that was too smart for school, which is probably not a good approach to take when we're talking about the science of developing lungs in children. And we'll get into that in more detail. But we basically have a developer and a person that has no actual formal education to be speaking about air quality. So the other thing he says, I'll let Ana kind of go into that, is he talks about that the air quality is better today than it was in the past. Ana, how would you categorize that kind of comment?
Right. So I was actually outraged when I heard that comment because, yes, of course, back in the day in the late 80s, early 90s, of course, there was, dust everywhere. But with the rapid increase of development, the dust has settled. And now we're stuck with PM 2.5. and other pollutants that are very fine particulate matter particles that actually go into our bloodstream, go into our lungs much more rapidly than what we had in the past. And so now, how can we say that our air quality has improved when in fact our asthma rates, our COPD rates, our cancer rates are increasingly dramatically, like he said. I like to use the same word because if you look at the data, if you look at the Loma Linda studies that have been done, the UCR studies that have been done, the Berkeley studies that have been done, you can see that all these illnesses have increased dramatically in our region. So how can the air quality get better, yet all of these illnesses are rapidly increasing, especially in our kids and in our elderly population?
So we'll put some links into some organizations that are absolute leaders in this science and research, so you can get some more information and make the decision for yourself. We're moms, we're professionals, and we just don't want you to be listening to advice from a bar owner about air quality that has no formal education. And we want you and we want to encourage you to really do the research. So let's see what else is said in this video.
Not without a lot of economic investment and a lot of very stringent regulations that you don't find anywhere else in the world.
So I just want to point out there that Fontana doesn't have special rules. It's California rules. It's rules that are, our government within California has established. Fontana, in fact, has no special rules, and there's no additional infrastructure. In fact, there's not even a compliance with the requirements that are in place to protect citizens from big pollutants like truck traffic emissions. There's not compliance in the fact that there's supposed to be an environmental impact study completed to see what that looks like. What would be the implications, the health risks, the traffic risk? What would be the infrastructure risk as a whole? So there's a belief that they're completed. But most of these were done 20 some years ago, and that was before all the cumulative warehouses occurred. So it's very disingenuous to say that because, in fact, Fontana has failed to comply with the laws to the point where the AG recently filed the lawsuit. So, Anna, do you want to talk a little bit more about that lawsuit?
Right. So just most recently, AG Bonta filed a lawsuit against the city of Fontana for their negligence in approving a warehouse literally within feet of Jurupa Hills High School. And the city did not consider the cumulative impacts that, like Amparo just mentioned, and they got away with a very simple study that didn't really outline the huge impacts to the health and safety of the residents that not only reside by the high school, but throughout the entire South Fontana. And so with that, the AG Bonta felt the need to file this lawsuit to put Fontana on notice that they are, in fact, neglecting the health and safety of the community, and that cannot be allowed anymore. And when he says that we have the most stringent rules in the city, we can prove to you that that is not true. There's other cities surrounding Fontana that have put and implemented ordinances and regulations for their development that actually protects the community, and so they're not doing that at all.
Yeah, and we just want to make sure we remember he has no formal education and no experience to be talking about this topic, except in development. So if I'm expecting to help my buddies get big development going in the city, I would definitely want him on my side. But we're here to be on your side to do what's best for your family, because we know you guys are working so hard to put a roof over your head and food on that table. Even when the stock shelves at this grocery store are empty, we are there for you. So let's continue on with this.
I think Fontana, being the hub that it is for logistics, does have a specific responsibility to do what it can to enhance air quality protections, and I think that we're taking great steps. We've taken great steps towards that in the last several years. The council will consider adopting a new Commerce Center ordinance that will probably be more restrictive, more environmentally progressive than any other city in our region, because we are.
Okay, so a couple things. I don't know if you noticed in those videos, the air quality in the mountains, you couldn't see the mountains. The air quality is horrible. So back in the 80s, they were pretty bad. There was a lot of dust because of lack of development. There was a lot of agriculture. There was a lot of food we were a very big hub of food at the Inland Empire. Today, that's not the case. There's not as many open fields. They showed a few of them that's going to become a park in South Fontana, right there next to a warehouse. So your kids are playing right by those trucks, by the way. So that's where they're going to put a park. But you can't see those mountains. And that should be a really clear indication that this is not healthy. And again, we're having a non-professional talk about this. And they're making a mention to a city ordinance that's going to be really putting Fontana on the map for environmental aggressive accountability for businesses. And so I'm going to turn this over to Anna. Anna's kind of talk about that ordinance and some of the things. And I would like to talk about the fact that, we're not just making a video after the fact. We really did go in good faith to the city manager, the deputy city manager, Phil Barham. We had a meeting with him in December 15th of 2021. We tried to talk to him. We brought up the ordinance. We looked at some of the things that we would like to see in it. And all of that was actually ignored. So we would like to discuss what was actually passed by the city, and we'd actually like to discuss some of the things that we brought to the city for their consideration.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. So just recently, about 2 weeks ago, the city adopted a sustainability ordinance addressing commerce centers, right? And so in this ordinance, it is very general and it's not specific to the issues that our community is facing, like the health impacts, the safety impacts, the traffic impacts, the infrastructure impacts due to the damages that these warehouses and truck traffic is producing in the city. So I'll give you a perfect example. One of the things that we highlighted to Phil Barham at the meeting, and even as we're doing public comments at the planning commission meetings and at the city council meetings, was the buffer setbacks. And so in one of their in the sections where it says buffering and screening, they literally listed a warehouse building larger than 50,000 square feet in size can have a 10-foot wide landscaping perimeter buffer. And so this is totally outrageous and laughable because CARB and the South Coast Air Quality Management Districts has guidelines regarding buffers, and it clearly states that when there's sensitive receptors close to industry, there has to be at least a 1,000-foot buffer in order to protect that community that's surrounding it. And here in Fontana, they're talking about a 10-foot wide.
And to put that into perspective, during COVID, we learned that 6 feet is enough kind of distance. It's a good distance to keep human spit, large particles away from you inhaling it. But as we've kind of talked about, the pollution from truck traffic and from the warehouses and heavy pollutants is so microscopic that you cannot see it. So 10 feet is kind of like nothing. So it's kind of like a slap in the face. And when we brought this up to Phil during the meeting, he said, do you know how expensive it is for warehouses? $300 a square foot for storage space. And he said, I cannot tell them what to do on their property, which we thought was interesting because at that point, every city council meeting, every planning commission meeting, everyone repeated Phil's words. And he actually said in our meeting with him that he tells everybody what to think. So there's probably some Brown Act violations right there because you're not supposed to take everybody's opinions and have your decisions made outside of the public view. So we probably need to investigate that. But in reality, the reality is if this is true, Phil's really influencing, which we heard everybody basically verbatim saying what he said to us in private almost 2 months prior to the vote, then we really did put the fox in charge of the hen house. So 10 feet is a joke. So you have to think, you have children in the playground, you have all these things. There are other cities that have further setbacks. There's 500 feet, which is reasonable. That's very reasonable. We were willing to negotiate down to 500 feet, but when we asked him why would he continuously speak for the warehouses, we asked him, does he think he works for the developers or work for the public? He actually tried to kick me out of the meeting, which is very interesting because the truth of the matter is he's really not working for us. He's working for the developers. He's just undercover, maybe a Planet agent. So there's some other things in here. There was some reference to the new South Coast air quality rule. So basically this ordinance just complies with Rule 2305. It doesn't actually comply with SB 1000, which talks about the cumulative effects. It doesn't actually. Fontana is not compliant. They are skirting compliance, and they have already been awarded a lawsuit with this kind of behavior. Anna, you want to talk about some of the solar panels and some of the other things that are in here?
Sure. So another thing we highlighted at some of these meetings before the city adopted this ordinance was the fact that they are requesting or saying that on buildings over 400,000 square feet, prior to issuing a business license, they need to adopt a plan to have solar panels in their building, or to even have electrification infrastructure in place. And 400,000 was also a joke because all the warehouses that they're approving, especially in the past year or so, have been between 50,000 and 150,000 square feet. So we wanted that square footage to be changed to at least 100,000, and not to have 30% of the roof be solar, but increase it to about 75%. And so that was also a joke. So how can you say this is the most progressive and stringent rules when you're not even approving warehouses that are over 400,000?
Yeah. So I'm going to play because there's some points that he brings up that coincide with the ordinance.
We're taking it seriously. I mean, the new ordinance will include things like more strict setback requirements. So it's effectively resulting on a smaller building than today.
So just like you said, a smaller building by 10 feet. Nothing large, 10 feet, which is just green landscaping. So they're not losing any space, and he made sure of that because he could quote to us how much that land was worth. So let's continue.
It'll otherwise be built on the same size parcel. Something as silly as tree species requirements and...
Something as silly as tree species requirements. What do you think of that?
So for a person that says that truly cares about the air quality, I mean, you should know that trees are the most effective air filters that we can have in a city. And so the fact that he just named them silly means to us that he really doesn't care about improving the air quality or filtering the air that they're heavily polluting, they're responsible for polluting, right? And so that was another conversation that we had with him when we met with him, that you need to have certain type of species of trees that can highly filter some of the pollutants that are in the air, and that would make our air a little better. So
I think scientists will tell you that there are better species at cleaning the air, and one of those is the evergreen. There's in the ordinance, it's drought tolerant, minimum 36-inch box. And it shall be spaced at no greater than 40 feet on center. So that's good, but we could do better, absolutely better. There's a lot of great species out there that are great at cleaning the air, but to kind of say that they're silly means it's kind of par for the course, because you'd have to understand science to be able to speak intelligently about this topic.
And specimen sizes and how many trees are being planted is something that this ordinance focuses a lot on. When one of the first things that we all learned in first or second grade is trees clean the air and produce oxygen. Fontana has initiated an urban greening study, and we'll be developing policies and protocols beyond this ordinance about urban greening in an effort to, among other things, increase our canopy coverage in the city to a much more respectable percentage. To attribute air quality in Fontana or anywhere in Southern California to the logistics industry is just disingenuous.
Okay, so he said that air quality to link air quality in the Inland Empire to logistics center is disingenuous or incorrect. So we are going to include some links here so you can see data over time. There's something called Kellen Viroscreen. 3.0 was the first, and then now we're at 4.0. And what that does, it gives you an opportunity to put your address in and see what are the environmental impacts happening in your area. And you'll see the closer you get to a warehouse, to a manufacturing facility, to a freeway, to a railroad yard, your actual impact, your environmental impact is astronomically high. Now, it's true the Inland Empire is very much in a basin. So, the winds bring in the pollution from LA, so we have that disadvantage. But astronomical astronomical impacts have been happening because of the warehouse. There's nowhere for that pollutant to go. We do not have enough trees. We do not have a process. We do not have stringent regulations on those trucks coming into our communities. So, and more importantly, cities are not planning as they should be to keep one zone where those trucks are in, and we can encircle them with breaks with trees and green spaces to help mitigate those environmental impacts. Instead, what they're doing is they're allowing these companies to buy residential plots for pennies, for a very small amount, and they let them sit on them for years. And then when the price is right, they flip them. The city, maybe they get some money into their campaign chest. Not maybe. We could put a link into how much they get, because it's actually a very true fact. But they'll take that land, and now they'll flip it into commercial, and they only paid taxes into the city once based on residential land. So the profit to the city is almost negligent. It's tiny and small, and long ago spent because it's been sitting there so long, and now they're making millions off of it, and we suffer for it. So let's see what he says next.
Quality has been a challenge long before Fontana had its first commerce center.
Just want to point out those mountains again. Can you see them? Can you see them? They look terrible.
14,000 vehicles per hour pass Fontana. When you combine the traffic from the ports of Long Beach, including their trips to the grocery store and their trips to schools, and they're mowing their lawn and their gas leaf blowers, if we never built a single commerce center, we'd have air quality challenges.
So he says if we never built a single air quality or a single commerce center, we'd still have air quality problems. That's what he said. So in his mind, because it's already bad, let's just go for the full thing. Let's just blow it all up. Let's let it all on fire, because it's okay to destroy the air where you live. It's okay to destroy the air for the Fontana residents. You guys don't matter. And it's true, we do have a heavy truck flow from the ports because we are the logistics center. Because those logistics centers are here, that's why the trucks are here. And because for a long time we didn't have jobs here, there was a lot of traffic to LA. Well, that's probably gone down, but it's been replaced with nothing but truck traffic into this area. And he talks about leaf blowers and grass. And really, this man has the power to get rid of that, to put ordinances so we don't have grass. We can reduce that to increase hardscaping, but the city of Fontana won't let you replace all your grass. So they want you to continue to mow your lawn. They want you to continue to waste water. And this right here is the man that could actually change that. But instead of taking accountability for his role as representative of us, he's blaming us on behalf of the developers.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to say about that?
No, I think you put that so perfect, because they're putting the blame on the residents and the fact that maybe they don't make enough profits because of the housing. And, we've heard it over and over, not just for this city, but other cities, that it's cheaper to have a warehouse than a housing tract, because the city has to spend more money on services like police and fire and paramedics and all of that. And instead, they would like to work less and not take care of the community and just have this massive shoebox in the middle of community and schools and parks. And that's how they see that it's more beneficial for the city.
Yeah, and I think there was something he said in that meeting too. He said he was that the commerce centers don't use water, they don't use sewer, and that's not true. I have an extensive background in manufacturing, and if you've ever actually worked in a logistics center or any kind of automated system, there's conveyance everywhere. And you know what conveyance runs off? Water. So you use more water to run a conveyor than an entire neighborhood does. So what that does is it depletes the water table, so now our wells have to drop down lower. Do you know how expensive that is? That's extremely expensive, and none of these warehouses are paying into it. You know who's going to pay for it? You and me. Our rates are going to go up. And right here, the fox guarding the hen house is saying it's all our fault.
We hope we're making strides in the direction to correct it and to do what we can to improve that quality. But I think that the new ordinance, along with the rollout of our urban greening policy, hopefully a tree planting initiative, I think all.
So he said, hopefully a tree planting initiative, hopefully. So earlier he said the ordinance says that we have to plant trees, but it never says how many. So if they plant one tree, but cut down 5 of them, that's okay. They planted a tree. So quantifying progress in this ordinance is non-existent. there are no measurable outcomes of this. This is pretty much trying to say, we hear that the residents are very unhappy with our choices. And because it's re-election year, we want to tell you we're doing something about it. And we're going to have a non-scientist, uneducated person in environmental impacts give you the presentation. So I hope you guys can see right through that.
All of those things will contribute to a cleaner, greener Fontana. I think we've done great. I think we can do better, and I'm sure we will do better.
All right, so that's the video. Any final comments you want to bring up?
Oh man, there's so much I want to say, but we did try. We did meet with them. We attended almost every single planning commission and city council meeting to address the things that we wanted to see on this ordinance. For example, hours of operation. Other cities have ordinances in place that a warehouse cannot operate on 24 hours, and this city doesn't have that. So a warehouse is allowed to work 24 hours. So why are we addressing the hours of operation? Things like let the community see the zoning map of the city. How come there was no community input or even workshops to provide to community a map of the truck routes, of the zoning, just to identify what areas in the city are left to do industrial? Because we're not against warehouses. We're against where they put them and the impacts that it has on the communities, and especially their health, right? Because people are dying, especially with the COVID pandemic. We've seen that our region was highly impacted by COVID death rates because our lungs are too weak. And so things like that we wanted to see on the ordinance, and in fact, he lied at the last council meeting when this ordinance was adopted by saying that he had met with our group and residents of Fontana, and that some of the recommendations or suggestions that we made were actually implemented in the ordinance. And in fact, zero were implemented in this ordinance. And so that's a flat out lie that needs to be exposed.
Yeah, so we came to him, and it was our 12:15 meeting. I sent him an email about a month later with all of the things that we had talked about to refresh his memory, so to make sure that these things would get included. And there were things like asking for a training center. Warehouse jobs aren't forever. They are going to be replaced by robots, so that's okay. It's temporary. They're here now. There's nothing we can do. We can't take them out. We can't uninstall them, so to speak. So we were asked for training in mechanics, electricians, automated technician, instrumentation technicians. These are really exciting jobs, I know, because this is my bread and butter. Logistics certifications, software and hardware information system training. So computer software, bookkeeping, medical billing, nurses, respiratory technicians, because we know the entire community is going to need respiratory therapy really quickly. X-ray technicians, physical therapists, ABA therapy for autism, which is also a side effect of PM 2.5. So if you see autistic rates going up in the Inland Empire, it is a side effect of PM 2.5 exposure. We were asking for free Wi-Fi for all residents of Fontana. We were asking for biorehabilitation centers, basically green spaces where we would have citrus, apple, almond, and cherry trees surrounded by those beautiful pines that clean the air, maybe some cypress trees, which we find are extremely good at cleaning up 2.5, PM 2.5. And we were asking for HVAC and HEPA filters for grants, basically for them to be installed for tenants. Anyone that lived close to landfill, perchlorate remediation, freeways, and truck routes. We wanted them to have an opportunity for clean air. And these are all things the logistics centers could pay for. And these are all things that if we actually had a deputy city manager that cared about the community and about the people that live in Fontana, he could make happen. But his response to us was, why should the warehouses pay for it? Why shouldn't the residents of Fontana pay for it? And I think I asked him a few times, who do you think you work for? And the answer was he truly believes he works for the developer still. We also asked for truck routes. We asked for a commitment to make those truck routes so that we don't continue to see all the accidents we've been seeing down in the south side of Fontana, which has been horrendous. And I can only imagine with the school being put in, or the new warehouse right next to the school, what that's going to look for our teenagers. So I'm fighting for you, Mama, right now before your child gets out there on the road and faces a truck. Because I am a mother and I don't know if I could live through that. That's horrible. We asked for, we gave specific areas that we wanted to see truck routes. We asked for electrical upgrades. We asked for microgrids within the city so that these warehouses and logistics centers can build in, because if you live in the north of Fontana like I do, we go without power all the time. Our power gets shut off. That means food gets wasted. My babies, my babies in the neighborhood, they don't have food now. We can't open the refrigerator. So, we have to look out for each other as mothers. And then we wanted a citywide health and safety impact study done. We wanted the city to pay for that, so they can actually get the truth. Instead of saying, it's really easy to have an uneducated person just spew propaganda, but it is another thing when you invite all of the medical professionals into the city to actually do an actual study. So those are the things we asked for, none of which was included on the ordinance. And as Anna said, the deputy city manager, Phil Burham, he lied about it. And why did he lie? Let's ask that question. He lied because he does not have your interest at heart. He's here to make a profit for his brother, who is still a developer, and he is here to make a profit for all of his buddies that he's been working with for the last 22 years. So
here at CCAEJ, we use the hashtag a lot that says people over profits and billions off our backs and things like that, because this is what these developers are doing. They're coming out from Orange County or LA County, the fancy Beverly Hills areas like the Wieners and so many other developers that are literally
they're robbing us, right?
Right. Like, I don't even know what word
it's
to
so
use.
Emotional, and I, Anna and I have talked about this, and we think another solution to this is if a developer wants to move and build in our city, great. And if you want to name the Wiener building, an actual city property building after him, he should have to live here and place his children in school here. So his interests and our interests are the same. And I guarantee you'd see an improvement in Fontana to be the Fontana that a resident would not to see, not a profiter want to see.
Yeah. And I mean, essentially, they're exploiting our communities. They're giving them low wage jobs, no benefits, no breaks. Sometimes they even cut into their lunch breaks. And we've seen so many testimonies from warehouse workers. Why is it that at these council meetings and at these planning commission meetings, you never see a warehouse worker coming in and say, yes, let's bring this development in. I love my job. You never see that. You always see the community fighting for their health and their safety and everything else to protect their families. But you never see a warehouse worker coming in and saying how much they love their job and that they want more of this. And so it's very unfortunate. And it's just a negligent act against our community.
So we probably talked your ear off a long time. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this video up. Thank you so much for watching it all the way through. We're going to put links in here and we will continue to do this. So please like this, please share this. This could save a life. Really, this will save lives. So do your part and help spread the word.